I don't know. Whatever you feel like.
What are you doing?
I don't know, babe. Cats seem to like me. Probably gonna be to my advantage because we're playing the Isle of Cats tonight. Hey guys, we've got the Isle of Cats on the table. And let me start off by just saying that this is a bit of a different game for us to review on Love to Hate. It's a little bit of a longer game, 60 to 90 minutes, as you can see there. And the reason why we are going to review it is because there is a family mode to this game, which I'll cover at the very end of the video, that does make the game a lot easier to understand for your non-gamer friends. So just be aware of that the advanced version of the game is a little bit deeper, a little bit longer, but there is a beginner version to teach your non-gamer friends. So this is the Isle of Cats. There's lots of pieces to it, as you can see. The game lasts 5 rounds, and I'll explain how a round works in this game. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to draw cats from this bag over here. There's tons and tons of cat Tetris-like pieces in the bag. And whoever is the first player is going to draw a number of cats out and place equal piles on the left side of the board and the right side of the board. And the number you draw is dependent on the number of players in the game. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to give each player 20 fish. There are small fish that are worth 1 and the bigger fish that are worth 5. And so you'll get 20 of those, and that's essentially your currency in the game, how you pay for things. The next thing you will do is you're going to deal 7 cards to each player. And so I'm just going to grab this top set of cards here. And what you do with these cards, you're going to look at what you have, and you're going to decide out of the cards that you have 2 that you would like to keep. And so I'm just going to grab these top 2 right here and place them face down there. And the rest of the cards you're going to pass to either the player on your left in an odd number round or the player on your right in an even number round. And everybody will do that. The cards will get passed around the board, and you will get cards sent back to you. And they should be 5. And so you'll take a look at the 5 cards that you've been given. You'll pick 2 to keep, add them to your 2 that you had before, and repeat the process. And so this time you'll get 3 cards sent back to you. You'll keep 2 of them, add them to the 4 that you have for a total of 6, and you'll be left with 1 card that you would then pass, and everybody would pass their 1 remaining card, and you would get that 1 remaining card and add it to the 7 that you had from before. Now, out of those 7, you would choose which ones you want to buy. And I know I have more than 7 here, just ignore that. But the ones that you're going to buy, you're going to pay the cost that's in the top left corner here. And so let's just say that I wanted to keep these 3 right here. It's a total of 4. And so I would pay that with my fish. I would pay 4 fish to buy those 4 cards and pay that back to the supply. And I'd get to keep these 3 cards, and discard the rest. And I would discard them face down so no one saw which cards I bought and which cards I got rid of. But we're going to pretend that I had all the cards, because I need to explain to you what the different cards do. All right, so you can see that I've separated the cards based on color. The next phase of the game, after you've decided which cards you're going to buy and keep, is to play any blue cards that you have. You have to play all of them, all the blue cards that you have. Now, the blue cards come in 2 variations. There are these public lesson cards that say that down there in the bottom left, or just regular lesson cards. The difference between the 2, the public ones you're going to play face up. Everybody's going to get to see it, and it's basically a way to earn points for every player at the board. Every player at the board will know this, and they'll be able to play to try to get points. So for instance, pick a color. All players get 1 point per cat of the chosen color on their board. So the player who played this card, they would grab one of these cats over here to help keep track of colors, and they would say blue cats. 1 point for every blue cat. This one here would say you get 5 points per treasure map that you don't cover on your board. I'll explain what that means here in a minute. Now these lesson cards, the ones that aren't public, these essentially are private. You're going to place these face down. No one's going to know what your cards are. Only you will know. And that will be ways for you to be able to get additional points at the end of the game. The next card to go over are the green cards, because that is the next phase in the game. The green cards are good for two things: speed and baskets. Speed is essentially used to determine player order. Whatever green cards you play that have these speed icons, these boots, you're going to add up the numbers next to those boots, and whoever has the highest number gets to go first, followed by whoever's next, and so on and so forth. And that is kept track right there at the top of the turn order board. The baskets are used to determine how many cats you can capture this round. And so you always have one permanent basket for every round to let you catch at least one cat. These baskets right here are considered to be regular baskets. You only get to use it one time to catch one cat. And baskets that look like these two baskets right here are considered broken baskets. You have to have at least two of them to be able to catch one cat. And so if I had these three cards plus my permanent basket, I would be able to catch a total of 3 cats this round. You have to play these cards, and so you play them and you discard them. You don't have to play them. You don't have to play green cards necessarily. You can hold on to them for next round, but that is up for you to decide. So while we're talking about capturing cats, let's explain what that means. I mentioned at the beginning of the round there are going to be cats on each side of the board here. Essentially, what you're needing to do is get as many of these cats as you can on your player board. And if you've noticed, your player board is a boat. And you want to use these cats to cover up as much of your boat as possible. The specific things you're trying to cover up are these rats, because each uncovered rat is going to give you -1 point at the end of the game. You're also going to want to try to cover up these treasure maps with the same color of cat. So with this blue cat right here, I want to cover up the blue treasure map. And when I do, I would get to take one of these, what is considered a common treasure. And these essentially take up more space on the board. So I might put it right there to cover up that rat, like that. The other thing that you're trying to do with these cats are cover up rooms. Now I know it's probably not very easy to distinguish on the player board the different rooms. You can see these little icons on each of these rooms, but in the rule book it shows it much better. And so there are several different rooms that you want to try to cover up on your player board, because each room that you do not cover up fully is going to give you -5 points at the end of the game. So you definitely want to try to cover those up. You also want to try and put the cats on your boat that is specific to the lesson cards that you've played, because that will get you big points at the end of the game. Now, you also, not only do you need baskets to be able to capture cats, but you also need to be able to pay fish. The cats over on this side of the board are considered to be the cheaper cats that only cost 3 fish, whereas the cats on this side of the board, they cost 5 fish. So essentially you need 1 basket and either 3 fish or 5 fish to be able to capture a cat and put it on your board. You take turns doing that one at a time, and after everybody is done capturing cats, then you go on to the next phase, which is to play any brown or yellow cards. Yellow cards are treasure cards, and so the treasure cards let you usually take rare treasures. Rare treasures come from the bag here. They are not cats. They just get set aside whenever they're drawn from the bag. And essentially they're the same thing as common treasures. They're just a little bit bigger. They take up more space on your board, and that's usually a pretty good thing. The brown cards let you take Oshak's cats. And what Oshak's are, they are special cats that you start the game with 6 of them. They're listed out right here, that come in different sizes from the regular kind of cats. And when you take one, you're going to place it on your board next to, let's say I had this purple cat right here trying to cover up that purple treasure map there. And so I might place this Oshak's next to a purple cat there. And when I do that, I then go over here and grab one of these cats and say, well, that Oshak's is now a purple cat. and I've essentially added it to my purple cat family. Now, while we're on that real quick, there are some rules about placing cats on your board, on your boats. You have to always place a cat touching a cat that's already on your board, unless if it's the first cat, obviously. And you want to try to group your cats by color, because as you can see, they are considered families here. And the bigger the family of cats that you have per color, the more points you get. So you want to try to make big families of cats there. Now, that's how the yellow and brown cards work. The purple cards you can play at any time, and they give you just special little benefits. So like for instance, gain 1 fish for each unique colored cat on your boat. Now, again, you can keep cards at the end of the round, except for the blue cards. You always have to play the blue cards, and you can also keep your fish. You don't have to spend everything. But you essentially do that for 5 rounds, and at the end of the 5th round, you're going to do final scoring. And the final scoring is listed on your player board here. Again, for every rat that you didn't cover up, you're going to get -1 point. For every room that you didn't fully fill in, you're going to get -5 points. Then you're going to score your cat families and get points for the different sizes of the different colors of cats that you have. You also get 3 points for every rare treasure. So not only are they a little bit bigger, but they also give you extra points. You're then going to flip over your private lessons that you kept face down and score those, and then you'll score the public lessons, and again, those apply to every player at the table. So not just the ones that you played, but the ones that everyone else played. Then you'll add up all the points and figure out who the winner is. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there is a simpler, easier version to introduce your non-gamer friends with, and that is this, what's considered to be a family version of the game. I like to think of it as a non-gamer version of the game, and it's a set of rules and a set of cards here, and essentially these cards replace all the other cards in the game. They're lesson cards that you get, and it's pretty much kind of a streamlined version of the game. You use these cards as the lesson cards. You don't have to deal with fish. You don't have to deal with any of the other cards. You do still get to draw treasures for covering up treasure maps and that sort of thing. And essentially what you're doing is just trying to cover up your board that's unique to whatever lesson cards that you had at the beginning of the game. And it makes it a lot easier, and I would recommend playing your first couple of times with just these family cards, and then once you feel like your non-gamer friends are into the know of how to really play this game, then I would introduce them to everything else that is in the Isle of Cats. Okay, so here we are playing the Isle of Cats, 2-player game with myself and Sam. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is the different mechanics in this game. This is a polyomino, card drafting, set collecting, pattern building type game. There are a lot of different mechanics in this game. And Sam, I just want to start off by talking about that and get your thoughts on all the different mechanics, and if you ever felt like that this game was too complex or too difficult for a non-gamer to be playing.
I mean, I think I was at an advantage because we have played the family version of this before, which doesn't have the fish or doesn't have all of the cards. So it is a little different, but I had the basics of the game down because of that. So I would suggest as a family, non-gamers playing the family version first. Also good because you can play with kids. But in general, no, I did not feel like it was too much. I tend to really enjoy polyomino games. And so also at an advantage for me because this is my preferred game type.
Yeah, there's something satisfying about taking those Tetris-like pieces and putting them together like a puzzle, and each puzzle's different every time you play, and so it's not like you know the pattern of what you're building. You just kind of have to envision it in your mind as the game kind of goes along, and it's satisfying when you see that work.
But talk a little bit about all the other stuff that usually gets added on in a game like this, like having to cover up the rats or the treasure maps and the lesson cards that you play.
I mean, I do tend to be very hyper focused on the actual patterns. So as you'll see in the game, I start on one end and I build towards the other end without and making sure I cover all the spots. And then halfway through, I tend to think, oh no, I didn't cover the rats. I'm not even paying attention to the treasure maps. There was a couple of times in the playthrough where you had to remind me you're covering up a treasure map there. So I do tend to be hyper focused on that one aspect of it, which it's just a way to play the game, but I probably could have focused on other things and done better.
Yeah, it's easy to get tunnel visioned with these kinds of games and forget the other aspects. But I think this isn't so bad that it's unforgiving and it punishes you whenever you maybe make a mistake because you are so focused on something. I think in the true sense of the word that this is a family, non-gamer friendly, deep thinky type of game. I think this is a good one to play with non-gamers because of the different ways to score points in this game. I will say one thing that I'm not such a big fan of, there's a lot of negatives too of, you lose points for not covering the rats and not covering up the rooms. And so sometimes you can feel like you're doing really well and then walk away and you only scored 20 points.
Well, and I think I could have done a lot better if I would have paid attention to the colors of my cats. And again, I had tunnel vision. I was paying attention to the pattern, to covering up the spaces, but not necessarily what pieces I'm using to cover up those spaces, more the shape than the color. So I think I could have gotten a lot more points if I would have paid attention to that.
Yeah. So there are lots of things to like about this game. There are a few knocks about this game. But ultimately, Sam, would you say that this is a game that you enjoyed playing and would recommend for non-gamers?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end, I thought to myself, I could have done better if we played again. Like, I would like to play again and try a different strategy, yeah. So yeah, I think it's a good game for non-gamers, and it's different.
And this is one that we've had for a little while. We got it through the Kickstarter. You can see some of the components or the upgraded components from the Kickstarter. And we've played the family version a number of times with our kids. This is the first time that we kind of got it, the real version of the game. And so having actually played the real version of the game, is this one you think we should keep around and keep playing?
Yeah, I'm not ready to throw it out the window yet. I did like also that it didn't last too long. I honestly thought when you explained everything to me that it was going to be a longer game, but I think we played it in just over 45 minutes, which is a bonus for me too.
Yeah, I was shocked about how quick the game went. Because the box does say that it is going to be an hour to an hour and a half. We played in 45 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Now, that was a 2-player game, and so if you play with more players, it's guaranteed that it will be longer. But that also kind of adds the benefit of more cats to pick from, more lesson cards to be played, and so that does bring a little bit more to the game. It just does make it a little bit longer, so keep that in mind. All right, so let's get to our ratings. I will give this game a 7.5 if I'm allowed to do half scores. If I'm not, if I have to do whole numbers, I think I would lean more towards an 8 than a 7. But I'm going to be right there at 7.5. How about you, Sam?
I was going to lean towards 7.
Okay, so there you have it, 7.5 and 7. And you already heard her suggest that this would be a good game for non-gamers. And so I would recommend you guys to go out there and pick up the Isle of Cats. There is a link to buy the game on Amazon in the description below. You should check that out. And until next time, this has been Love to Hate.